All right, folks, welcome back to the Property Couch, and this one's kicking off our summer series for the year. We are talking to a TPC listener who lived rent-free in a lighthouse that helped them turn their finances around, and also the clever renovation and subdivision strategy that kickstarted their $3 million property portfolio. What else do we cover, Ben?
Well, Bryce, this is a story about wanting more in life than what was on offer and taking advantage of that. It is a transformational story that I can't wait to share with our audience.
Let's get stuck into summer series, folks. Let's rip into the show.
Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, co-host of Escape from the City on the ABC, and partner of Empower Wealth Advisory. Ben Kingsley, chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the founder of Empower Wealth Advisory, named the 2018 and 2019 Property Advisory Firm of the Year. Stay tuned as they bring you the insider's guide to property, finance and money management.
All right, folks, welcome to Summer Series 2024/2025. Ben and I are very excited this time of the year where we get you folks who've been listening to us all year contributing to the podcast. But before we get there, Ben, welcome to you, mate, to this, what is now a wonderful part of the year for us, which is Summer Series.
Summer, and you've even dressed up for it. I like the shirt. I like what you've done. As for me, I'm still in the office and still basically, not quite there yet. But no, we have got an amazing set of wonderful guests over the next 8 or 9 weeks. It is just going to be incredible. And I can't wait to get into unpacking all of their stories.
What a lineup, folks. We have got some incredible guests that I think that as you're in a caravan park, walking the dog, having festive dinners, festive lunches, all those sorts
Still
of
at work
over this summer series, folks. We are very, very excited to bring this to you. Now, before we get there, just want a little reminder for you to think about over the Christmas and festive season is the charity event that I've got coming up in May, Ben, where I'm donating my birthday for charity. And I'm super excited about it. So, folks, we've got an expression of interest, thepropertycouch.com.au/Bryce's 50th. If you want to join Ben and I and our families and a select group of people who are going to go to Indonesia and make life-changing transformations to the wonderful people in that country, click on the link. Let us know you want to be involved, because in January, Ben, we're going to get very, very close to talking to the people who are actually going to join us, which will be amazing. So
it's going to come around real quick.
Day one, we get picked up, we go to the village, we see the people get their transformations done. Day two, we go back as they take their eye masks, their eye patches off, and they see for the very first time. If that doesn't blow you away, you're not alive. And then, Ben, on the third day, we're going to have a property mastermind where you and I and the guests who join us are actually going to spend a day together over in Indonesia, talking all things property and lifestyle by design. So it is going to be amazing, and we want you to be a part of it. So if that's you, click on the link that you'll see in the show description and come and spend some time with Ben and I. But here's what I think might get people over the line, Ben. They get to meet Stig, because Stiggy will be there, right?
Ooh, another little good reason to go.
Stiggy is going to be there, folks. So if you've ever wanted to meet the Stig, which, let's be honest, a lot of people do, make sure you come along. But thepropertycouch.com.au/Bryce's 50th would love to have you come and be a part of it, Ben. It'll be a party of over 350 people, because there's the lives that we're going to change. But get on board. But let's get into our summer series, Ben. This is our first one. Summer is in the air. We love this time of the year. You and I recently had a conversation with an incredible TPC listener. Let's cut to that conversation right now. All right, Ben, we've got a very special guest today. We have a TPC listener coming to chat to us on this episode of the summer series. Her name is Naomi Doodson. Welcome to the Property Couch, Naomi.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We look forward to chatting to you about what you've been doing over the last little while with your portfolio build. But before we get there, you've been on quite a journey. Humble beginnings. You built this really solid property portfolio. But I wonder if there have been times where you felt like you might have been going alone. And if so, what did you do to push through those moments?
Yes, I think I did. I think very early in my life, probably even from my early teens, I felt like I was kind of doing life on my own, and I was the oldest sibling as well, so I kind of felt like I was in charge of my brothers a bit, in making sure that they were kind of. I think we were pretty much surviving. I mean, we were kids. And so even into my young adulthood, I kind of very much felt like I was doing things all alone and had no knowledge of how to do life, and definitely did not have any idea on how to do money. So, yeah.
Mm.
Well, that does kind of lead us into our way to get to know you. And you do have an interesting backstory. So tell us a little bit about conversations when you were younger over the dinner table when it comes to budgeting and money, and what you either did or didn't have as conversations with your parents.
Um, well, given that I came from a very working class family, so my father was a painter and decorator, so
Yep.
he was the breadwinner for the family of five, and my
Mm.
mother was a stay at home mother. So she took care of the kids, and so growing up, we grew up in the 80s. So it was kind of the era where you didn't talk about money and you didn't talk about politics.
Yep.
So there wasn't a lot of discussion around the dinner table. It was more of the discussion of would happen between my mother and father when we weren't around. And I know that mum would. I remember one time she wanted to buy a video recorder. I don't know if you remember video recorders, and they were like
We're the same
800.
vintage, Naomi.
Yeah, so
VHS or Beta.
yeah. Well, no,
Yeah.
even it wasn't beta because that was too early and way too
Yeah.
expensive. And so we
We're
got a
not as quite as
VHS.
old as you, Ben.
No, I think I'm more your vintage, Bryce, actually.
Yeah, you are.
So anyway, so on that, I remember my mum like kind of vying for us to get a VHS, and I remembered the conversation that my parents had about it, and I remember it was going to cost about $800, and that was a lot of money.
Mm.
And Dad basically had said, "So that's fine, we can get a VHS, but that is it. We cannot go on a holiday or go on an outing for the rest of the year. That's it. That's our budget." So there really wasn't a lot of money. And, whenever we were getting toys and things for Christmas or birthdays, they would go to the trading post and they would get things secondhand. And it was always very exciting because we'd go with them to pick it up, and it was always come out in garbage bags. And we were all very excited knowing that it was our Christmas gift. So we were pretty grateful kids, and we didn't really do without. We never got anything new. And so there really wasn't a lot of discussion around money at the dinner table because there wasn't a lot of money to talk about. Like it was just paying the bills, and can we afford it? There was a lot of we can't afford it.
And Naomi, who did that job in the household? Was it mum or dad?
My dad.
Okay, so your
Yeah.
dad was the controller of the money.
Yeah.
Did you notice any money system that he had? Like, did he believe in putting it in the bank and leaving
I
it
think
there
he
and
was a
drawing it out, or
saver.
did he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry. I think he was a saver, what he could save. Like obviously, he put money aside.
yeah,
And I think he was very good with money. I think his grandmother had my grandmother, sorry, his mother had taught him that. He
yeah,
left school. His trade was, he was a painter. He left school at 13
yeah.
and had got his trade. And his mother used to take his wages and put it away and
Ah.
helped him buy a house with that. And so I think he understood the value of it, but he just didn't transfer it to us. He didn't
Now, as
teach
a
us.
painter and decorator in that
Mm,
time,
mm.
we're talking about it probably a bit of folded cash, probably also.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you have cash around the house in terms of for those little groceries, and or did it actually hit the bank account?
If we did, I didn't know where he hid it. He worked like weekends. He did a lot of cash jobs on the
Yeah. Okay.
weekends.
Yeah.
Because they were also it was the 80s when everything went to 18%. So and
Yeah.
he'd almost paid off his house. So but he still had a mortgage and a very, very low income. So
Family of five on a single income,
mm,
that's not easy, no matter what era that you grow up in, and especially, as you say, on a painter and decorator salary,
mm.
there would have had to have been those extra jobs
Yeah,
to basically cover the costs, right? But
yeah, he
not
worked really
to your
hard.
point. So how did you compensate for the fact that you weren't getting the latest Fabergé jeans, or you weren't getting the sort of the next sort of fad that came through. How did you keep yourself interested in terms of hanging around and mucking around?
Well, I got a job as soon as I could at 13.
Okay.
I worked in a fish and chip shop for $5 an hour,
Oof.
cash in hand.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the first time I think I was able to buy a pair of Reeboks. Before that, it was Dunlop Volleys,
Yep.
and I lived in those. And now they came back trendy. So, I was
It's
not
unbelievable having
trendy at
this
the
story.
time.
Just reminiscing of the nostalgic.
I
I wore
know.
the Dunlop
What is
Volleys.
old is new again.
And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and the VHS recorder, Naomi, my kids, it frustrates me. They got 16,000 million titles to choose from. We had to go down to the shop and just hope that the VHS was actually behind the latest new
You're
release
right.
we wanted, because
Yeah.
even if we wanted the damn title, we couldn't guarantee that we'd get it. But
We were the era of delayed gratification for sure.
yeah, by default.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
so do you remember what you did once you started earning money? I mean, were you one of these people with a Dolomite account or a state bank account
Oh,
where?
yeah, Dad had those.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a sad story about that, so we probably won't talk about that one. It's not nice. My parents got divorced. It wasn't good.
Okay.
But I had to pay for things that I wanted, but also some needs. So there wasn't a lot of money. I got as many jobs as I could get on the weekends. So when a lot of my friends weren't working, I was.
Okay. So we're talking about how old were you when that separation occurred?
I was about 10 when my
Yeah.
parents separated. It was
Yeah.
a pretty sad time,
Yeah, I bet.
and it was hard on the family. We kind of went backwards and forwards between parents, and it wasn't a nice breakup. So
No.
the kids really suffered a bit in that.
And did your mum had to find part-time work as well to
No,
cover?
she didn't work. She got a pension and
Okay.
never worked. Has never
Right.
worked. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So in the end of the day, as the older sibling looking after the other kids,
Mm.
you felt an obligation that you needed to support the family, right?
Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah.
I did, whether it was even emotionally.
Yeah.
So in some ways I did. When I was living with Mum, it was a bit that way. With Dad, not so much. But yeah, just the nature of divorce. It's nasty.
A lot of responsibility on a young teenager. A lot of
Yeah,
responsibility.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. It grew me up, I think, pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I left home at 18. So probably getting away from my family was a good thing for me. It made me get a sense of independence of my own and working out who I was. I
Yep.
moved interstate as well, which was a big deal. I actually grew up in Flemington and around Yea and around that area,
Yeah.
and moved up to Sydney. So I moved to Sydney when I was about 19, after about a year after moving out of home, and just kind of did all kinds of jobs, a lot of door-to-door sales, really tough sales jobs. So I probably got very thick skin very early.
Yeah, because in the notes that you've sent us, you're very tenacious. We're going to learn that as we go through your story. But so as you're leaving home at 18, interstate, what did it look like when your first independent job? You're getting all this. Well, it's not your first independent job because you started at 13, but independent lifestyle that you're creating.
Yeah.
What does it look like for you when you're just trying to find your feet in outside of the family home and getting on with life?
It wasn't easy, actually. It was pretty tough. It was lonely, and there wasn't a lot of money. So sometimes I actually lived on tuna on toast.
Yeah.
And surprisingly to this day I still like it, which is really strange. But that was it. There wasn't, like, rent was huge. I lived in Sydney, so rent was massive, and there wasn't much left for food or anything else. So I worked out that I needed to get better sales jobs, as I was good at sales. That's what I was good at. I wasn't trained in anything. I had no schooling other than high school. So I had to kind of go by the seat of my pants, really, and look and lean very much on my own personality and see what was going to work for me. I did hospitality stuff, but sales was probably what I was best at, and I could make better money doing that.
Naomi, there's a fair bit going on here, and I normally
Yeah,
like to
sorry.
ask around. No, this is good. Thank you for being so, obviously authentic and open and honest with us. Your other siblings, did they,
Mm,
in that difficult transition of living in two homes and obviously a difficult divorce that went on, did they have this sort of same tenacity as what I'm hearing you had? And were they able to sort of, I'm writing notes down here about thriving and, sort of independence and, having this realization that if it is to be, it's up to me.
mm.
How did they cope through that period? Did they also dig in and keep going, or were there other sort of challenges that came about? Because what I
Yeah.
always get fascinated about is people growing up in the same household, but
Mm.
basically different realities around money behaviors, money psychology
Yeah.
around that sort of thing. Have you
Yeah.
got any without sort of going
Mm.
too deep? Are you all very similar, or are there real differences?
There are some huge differences.
Okay.
I don't know whether it was just birth order or certain ages. It's something that's always really got me thinking too. I've read a lot about
Yeah.
the psychology of
Nurture
that kind of
nature.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of my brothers took quite a long time to grow up. And he's doing really well. He's thriving. He's got a beautiful family and he's doing super well and he's investing well. And one of my brothers has not done well at all.
Yeah.
He's not thriving in life. So
Yeah.
a bit
Okay.
sad.
Yeah. It's
So,
difficult.
but I think, there is choices that we get to make, whether we're a victim of what happens to us or not.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes we've got to just fill our tool bag with what we don't have. And I feel like
What
that's
a
something I
great.
learned really early. And I have, I say it to my friends. My friends always say, "Oh God, you're always doing so much." And I'm like, I want to suck the marrow out of life.
Hmm.
So I learn a
Love
lot.
it.
I read a lot. I'm a sponge, and I've found even moving interstate, it opened my eyes to a different world, the way that a different people, because you leave your environment and you have to look around at what's going on around you, and you reflect and you go, well, what's normal and what should have been my life and what could my life be? And so I spent time with people who I thought were successful, and I listened and I learnt and I asked them about life and how to have a successful life. And I have a great marriage because it was important to me because I spent time with people that had a great marriage. So I think there is an environmental thing to that, just to a degree.
Yeah.
And if you're, yeah, I don't know, I'm saying a lot, but
There's
No, no,
because
no.
there's a lot there. You're giving a
yeah,
masterclass for a lot of people on how
Yes.
to actually navigate stuff and
Choices.
real
Mm.
stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah, choices. It is up to you. I think you when you say that, Ben, that if it's up to me, if it's to be, it's up to me. It just resonates with me so much.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah.
take us on this journey, right? So
Mm,
you're navigating. There's differences between the siblings. You're moving
mhm.
into states. You're learning stuff about yourself. You're getting sales roles and realizing that's and you're also developing this resilience. Thick skin. All of that stuff that comes from the backstory you've just shared, plus being in the sales environment. So
Yep.
how old were you when you felt like you started to really sort some of this stuff out, where the money coming in, you're trapping it okay, you're building yourself a vision for more than just spending what comes in?
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't all me. I think meeting my husband made a massive difference. So we met. I was still floundering about trying to figure that out, and we met. When did we meet? I was probably about 21, 22. And we had a pretty quick whirlwind relationship and got married pretty quickly, actually. We were both looking for our partners. And I think when you've come from a very broken family,
Mm.
finding the goal to have a family of my own was pretty huge. So I wasn't one of those people that went, oh, well, I can get married at some stage in my life. I really wanted to make my own family and belong. I think so. Meeting meeting Ben. He's a Ben.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I love
meeting,
him.
We
yeah,
won't hold
well,
that
most
against him.
Bens are great. I've never met a, yeah. So anyway, I met Ben, and having his own family of origin and input, he had things that he could teach me, and me being a sponge, I was listening. So we both kind of brought something to the relationship that was good for each other, I suppose, and it just fit really early. We figured it out pretty early that we just fit and it was going to work. So we got married, and we were still living very much hand to mouth. Like he was finishing his uni degree when we married. He actually was an engineer, working in at PGH clay, they made bricks and stuff. So he was running the kilns there, and decided he wanted to get out of there and work with people, which is what made him become a nurse. And so
Wow.
he's a nurse. You've had a few chats on X, actually, you and my husband Ben.
Gosh.
Yeah. So there. So in him doing that, he was just finishing his degree when we were having our first child. So it was, I remember going to the supermarket with $50 for our groceries for the week with a calculator, and we look
Yep.
back at it now with fond memories. Like we at the time we're like, well, what are we going to eat for $50 this week? And
Yep.
we made it fun, but also like now we go, wowzers, like what can you get for $50?
Yeah.
So we did a lot of that, and I started small businesses in that process because I was looking after my daughter, and he was a shift worker. So childcare wasn't as easy to get. We didn't have family support, so I was looking after my daughter, and you would do things. I was a makeup artist, and I would sell Avon, and I would do whatever I could to try and help us add a little bit to our family income. A nurse's income was good. He was only first year out, and so it takes about 7 years before they get to their highest pay. And they're striking at the moment, and they should be. Just on a little side note there.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a gripe with the government at the moment.
Don't worry, Ben gets political too.
Yeah, I love it. But I've got a gripe with them because apparently they saved Australia when we had COVID, but now they're not worth a pay rise. But anyway.
You should tell us what you really think, Naomi.
Yeah, I will. So anyway, so us coming together, I don't know, we were a team. So we worked together, and so whatever we were facing, we faced together. So we made it work. And then we had an opportunity actually to move down the South Coast, which is where we now reside. So nice little story here is my husband's uncle was actually the groundskeeper at Point Perpendicular Lighthouse, and said, the house is free. Do you want to live in that? And so we lived in the lighthouse house for 10 months, rent free.
Oh, good.
And this is what changed our trajectory. I mean, it was we had some debt, and it got us out of debt. So we were starting at dot again. So I know I'm telling you a lot of
Can I do some timeline sequencing here, because I think it's going to help, right? So by this stage, there's no property, one daughter at this stage,
one child.
So and effectively renting in Sydney, and then moving out of Sydney, moving down to the coast because you can get a free house, and then ultimately retire any debt that we had, because we've sort of done it in that more difficult order, not impossible, but difficult, in terms of starting a family before we have a property. And then, but that 10 months where you could just focus all on paying off debt and building a buffer, and then ultimately I would expect the deposit for the first home.
You would think, but no. We had another child.
Okay.
And then we moved into town. So after that, so we had intentions of moving back to Melbourne and being closer to family. I'm glad we never did that. And we stayed on the coast. And so we were living basically hand to mouth for probably about the first 7 years of our marriage.
Yep.
So we saved a little bit. But it was we'd go on a little holiday, which was, small things, little holidays here and there. And then we were able to buy a house straight after the GFC. So we'd saved up enough, and because that I think they were doing like 5% deposits then, if you remember.
Yeah.
And so it meant we could get into the market. We had 3 children by this stage.
Wow.
And we were done, 3 and done. And so
always planned to have 3, or was it?
I probably would have liked 4, but I don't think I could have done another pregnancy. I was done.
Yeah.
So, and I think the family was very important to me. So, and it was to my husband too. So I started another little business in that time. I was making and selling jewelry, and I was selling it originally like Tupperware. I would have jewelry parties. Nice. And so I'd built up this little model. Then I was doing markets, and then eventually I opened a shop when my youngest son was 5. So I've been doing kind of that ever since, and now I teach jewelry as well. So anyway, I digress. And so the business was, picking up over the years. So so that, which was good, and it helped serve the family. So we bought our first home, which was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in suburbia.
Yep.
Not where I wanted to live, but
regional
where we could
suburbia.
afford.
Yep.
Sorry?
Regional suburbia?
Regional suburbia.
Yep.
So just a little, a little town, a little suburb of Nowra.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
and that's where the jewelry shop was as well?
I actually had a studio there. That's where I used to make it all. And in Nowra was the first shop, and now we're in Berry. Okay. We affectionately used to call our little suburb West Culburra, because Culburra was where we wanted to live, which is the beach side.
West.
Yes, we were West Culburra.
There's the golden triangle over there of real estate.
Exactly.
Just next door to it.
Yeah, exactly. So Culburra was the dream. And so we lived in that house for quite some time, and we were starting to make more money. So we were spending it. So we weren't trapping anything. And so I'm like, we have to do something about this. Like, this isn't going to work.
So can I tell you, how did you know you weren't going forward? Like, what sort of money management system were you running?
Yeah.
Or was there nothing, and it was just like, as long as there's a little bit of money, or did you just see the money just slowly trickling up inside the offset or whatever, the savings account?
Yeah. Well, this was before I knew about offsets. So we just had a savings account. We had all the envelopes. We had envelopes at one stage, and then we went to accounts. So we had several different accounts for different things, which the envelope just transferred to the accounts. Yep. And I noticed that lifestyle creep was happening. So we were eating out more. We were doing the things that were as enjoyable, but I thought, this isn't sustainable. Being a small business owner, I had no super. I wasn't paying super because it was helping us live.
Yeah.
And so my husband had a healthy super, being a nurse, but I don't. And so I'm like, we need to do something to sustain ourselves in our old age. Like, we were in our early 40s, and I thought we have to. And my husband's a smart man too. He was looking into all kinds of things that we could do, and we were discussing it. And we said, look, I think we need to I would like to upgrade our home, but I don't think that's wise yet. I think we need to buy an investment property. And this was before I discovered you guys. So we had builder friends who were doing something similar. And I think sometimes that's the catalyst. You watch what other people do. And that's how I've always learned. I watch what other people do, and I take note, and I watch and I take note, and I look at the fruit, and I go, okay, that looks like a good way to go. So I don't know if it's not, I don't even know what to call that. Monkey see, monkey do. I don't even know. But
observational learning. It's
and so And so I just went, okay, well, let's go and find something. And I sent a photo to you guys of the first house that we bought. So it was a little fibro house. We paid under 300 for it. And it was interesting, actually. There was two people wanting it, us and someone else. And we had to put in, they kind of did like that mini auction where you had to put in your final, like what your price would be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've bought on eBay. I know what people are like. They always put a whole number. So I put a 1 in front of my number.
Yeah.
So we got it for $1,000 more than the other person was willing to pay.
Well done.
So I played games. But I thought this is how people work. So I'm like, I'm not going to give a whole number. And so we got this house, which was amazing. And I'd done my research and I realized that it was subdividable. And so we did a little healthy reno on it. We had a little bit of money saved that we could do a little renovation on. It was money I just made from a wholesale trade show, and I literally took my entire profits for this renovation.
Yep.
And so I'm obviously not risk averse. So we took that money, did this renovation. We actually put my mother-in-law in it, who was renting this horrible house not too far away. She'd moved down the coast about 3 years after us. And so she's paying rent. And so we're self-managing that, of course, as being our mother. And then 2 years later, we put a house on the back.
So you paid $311,000 for the...
No, we paid $291.
$291, okay, very good.
Yep. And then we subdivided the back. We spent about 20 grand on the reno on the front.
Yeah.
Probably about $10,000 in legal and subdivision stuff. And then we spent about $250 to do the build on the back. And we built a 3-bedroom, 2 bathroom.
House on the back.
House on the back, 1 garage. And we're living in that currently.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's still in the
Oh,
portfolio.
wait. The mother-in-law's in the front house and you're at the back.
Yeah.
So is it pretty much, for several years it was like, oh, it's Friday. Thanks, Mum. We're going to go away for the weekend and we'll be back on Sunday night.
That'd be nice. But no, we've only been here for a year. So we've had...
Well, family's important to you, Naomi.
Pardon?
Family's very important to you. So you might have a different dynamic around traditional mother-in-law stuff.
I think she's really enjoying having us here. She's in her 80s, and I make her a meal 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
We look after her. So
great.
So we've just put a little pergola on the back for her. We want her to be comfortable. So she is important to us. She's going to miss us when we go, because this is only temporary.
Yeah, of course.
So
Naomi, just talk a couple of things here. So so you bought this property, but you're clearly not afraid of you're an entrepreneur. It's very, very clear that you're an entrepreneur. So you're going to keep moving forward. But you mentioned that you stumbled across us as a podcast. What was that able to do for you, given that you were already a doer, you're already an action taker, and you were already let's be honest, you were already going to keep moving forward anyway. So what was it that helped refine what you were doing?
Well, I think it was about 2 years after we put the subdivision on, and we had made apples out of apple pie. I know apple pie out of apples is what you say.
Turn apples into apple pie.
Yeah. So we'd done that, and I was getting a bit itchy again, and so I thought we've done this. We know how to do this. I'm going to look for something else. And so but I thought, I don't know everything. I need education, and I need to know more. And so I remember because when I'm working, I'm making jewelry. So quite often that can be mindless. So listening to podcasts and listening to music or whatever is always really great in the background. And so I looked up property, and you guys came up. And I just loved your laid back but charismatic way that you guys chatted. And Ben actually sounded a lot like my uncle. And
Oh,
so
Uncle Ben.
there was this like, felt familiar. And so I just devoured it, and I kept listening, and I just went, these guys know what they're talking about. And so that's when I read all the books, and then I started to adopt money smarts, and then we started trapping surplus better than we were. And the offset accounts and all of that. So we set things up better, and we started trapping more money. And so it got us into a position where we could, I thought, well, now, like, we can upgrade our home. I didn't love where we lived. It was convenient and it was affordable at the time, but I was desperate for trees. And so we started looking around.
Gotcha.
Now,
And
Naomi, sorry,
yeah,
I'm jumping in here.
I know.
So
I'm sorry. I'm
the
talking too much.
7-day float, the 7-day
Yeah.
float. So you noticed that when you set up Money Smarts, that was the big takeaway for you. So, we talk about the regular spending, and that is the 7-day float, and it stops effectively that discretionary or unconscious spending, as we say.
Yeah.
Did you notice it immediately when you sort of gave yourself an amount of money, and then we got to make this work until the next sort of so-called payday?
We noticed it, but I also, in a way, didn't, because I was pretty used to sticking to a budget for our week to week.
Excellent. Yeah.
Having said that, the discretionary spending settled down a bit. So I'm like, we've got that. We can go and buy tickets to that. We can, so there was a bit more conscious thought towards that. So we, it definitely did make a difference. And I think because collectively we were focused on a common goal, that also made it, exciting, actually. It made us
that's
feel like
really
we were in
important.
control.
Yeah, that's really important. If, like, most people won't change behavior unless two things happen: a trauma, which is the worst type of change of behavior we want, or they set themselves a goal and they just make that their priority. Now, in your case, it sounds like you wanted a larger home surrounded by trees. And so all of a sudden, as soon as you lock that in as your North Star, everything and the compromises and the decisions around not going, obviously, to concerts and all that, whatever that may have looked like, all slowed down because you are aiming for the goal-orientated target that you set yourself. So that is really powerful. And people, once they lock in an idea, now the biggest problem for a lot of people in saving a deposit for a large amount of money is it might be 2 or 3 or 4 years away. So it just feels so hard for them to do that. But what you've been able to do, lock in and then just go for it and be determined about that. And I think that's a really good message for our community.
Naomi, can I ask you a question around mindset? You around the tenacity that you've shown and the fact that you're resilient, you're going to get stuff done. I'm interested and you're giving us the highlights reel, right? So I'm interested in a bit of the behind the scenes, right? Because you talked about when you were growing up, there was a lot of language around we can't afford it. You had some emotion when you were talking to us about how that growing up had some challenge to it. And then you met your husband, who was a really nice balance for you and taught you different things. Was there any for lack of a better word, demons of some of that stuff when you were younger that played out for you? Or was it a case that it was such a strong magnetic repel for you that you didn't want that anymore, that it drove you forward? Was there any derailers that popped up from time to time?
I think nothing huge that comes to mind. It's more, I think it really just repelled me to make a very different life. A very different life, and a very different life for my children. I think I never wanted them to feel like I felt. It's something it's something I used to talk with some of my girlfriends who are parents, and they hated doing the grocery shop, whereas I actually loved doing the grocery shop because there was something about having the cupboard full. So, things like that I felt like I was being a good mother. So, and I feel as though providing well for our family, I was being a good mother. So, as much as we spent a lot of quality time with our children, and most of our weekends are spent at the beach or camping, that's our family holidays. We're a very close family, and our children are 22, 20 and 17 now, so they're almost grown, and we're still very close, and we love being together. So that was probably the drive for me. So it just it made me move forward all the time. Yeah.
Naomi, there's a lot of people who have difficult upbringings, and they are trying to break free from the experiences that they've had. And I mean, there's great books written all over the world about, getting out of that sort of, moving to the big smoke or trying a different life. I mean, I've written down here, it's clear that in terms of what you're telling me, that you wanted more, more in life than what was on offer in the life that you were living at that moment. And that's true. No fault. There's no judgment there in terms of what that is. But you made a conscious decision that you wanted your life to represent more and to be more for you and to ultimately be more for your family. And, then that motherly element and instinct might have also kicked in terms of, and if I bring a family into the world, I want to have a better opportunity for them, an opportunity that may not have been afforded to you. And we didn't grow up in, these environments where social media or social envy platforms really did play with our psychology in our younger years. And hey, quick little shout out to the Labor Albanese government on this point. Banning social media to the age of 16 is probably one of their best policies I think they'll ever be remembered for. So that is aside. But I think that's what, part of your story is, to Bryce's point around the mindset and the decision making that you're making. It's really good. But I just wanted to highlight that to people that, you've made a conscious decision to sort of say, that's not going to be my place in the world. That's not going to be my spot. I'm going to break through that, and I'm going to, get that adventure. And an 18-year-old person going straight to Sydney. Did you have anywhere to live in Sydney at the time, or did you just?
I lived in a pub.
So you basically moved into upstairs of the pub, and then set yourself up.
I shared a bathroom with an 80-year-old man. It was, that lived down the hall. I probably just did my hard very early, and it's something I talk about a lot of this with my children, because they have had a very different life, but they're not getting away with being, little turds. I talk about they need to be contributors. We've always talked about being people of character, and even raising them. It was always, the question would always come back to if they were being little turds. I want to say the other word, but if they were being little turds, I would say, well, is this the person you want to be? Do you want to, if this, you're in control of who you are. So is this who you want to be? And I think it was one of the best questions I ever asked my children as young teenagers, because they want to control themselves, but they're not quite of age to be able to do so. So the only.
But mum, everybody else has got it, mum. Everyone else is on Snapchat.
When we're talking about social media.
You're isolating me from my friends, mum. Everyone else has got this. Everyone else has got that. I don't care.
We didn't let our kids have social media, even at 13. I said no.
Good on you.
And particularly because our daughter, I said, you're a guinea pig. You're the first one. I'm not letting you be a guinea pig. And I don't care if you're allowed to at 13. You're not allowed to. And so I know that she snuck accounts now. But the thing is that I just didn't want that to form who she was. And so it was hard to make those calls in her life. So, and the boys really didn't care so much for it. I think my daughter did though. So it was difficult making those decisions and having those conversations, because we were the first kind of to raise our children with it. So I think, that is one good thing Albo's done. But, I think that's really important And so I think also because I had a lot of delayed gratification of things, if I wanted things as a child, I might have gotten them, but it might have been 2 seasons later. It was
Yep.
never when it was trendy to have it. So
Know that feeling.
yeah, so I think our kids didn't always have everything they wanted either, just because we could, or
Yeah.
and we've taught them quite hard how to invest their money. Like our son, he's our youngest. He has ADHD, and we said, I don't think you should be finishing high school, mate. It's not right for you. We've always said to our kids, we don't let school get in the way of a good education. So for him, he left at school at 15, and he's doing a landscaping apprenticeship, and he's
Right.
outstanding. He does high-end stuff, like they're doing stonework and all of that kind of stuff. So he's doing high-end stuff, and he's a Lego fiend. So I'm like, he's just doing it for a living now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting paid to do it.
And
yeah,
he's getting
yeah.
paid to do it. And so the part of the discussion with him was, we're going to actually take your wage. You're going to get $100 a week to do with whatever you want with it. But we're going to put your wage in an offset account against our mortgage. And so we've done that, and we've invested a little bit, but he doesn't know. And so through that, he's been able to buy himself a car, because he needs a car for work, because he has to be able to get to work. But he has saved. He's 17, and he's got a car, and he's saved $20,000 already on his way to be able to buy his own house. I wish my parents had taught me how to do that.
Well done.
So
That's great role modeling. So Naomi,
sorry.
just to jump in there. So we've got the PPR in Nowra. Then you've bought this fibro house as your first investment property for $291,000, which you've then turned apples into apple pie. What do you do next?
So now this is when it gets sticky. So we wanted to upgrade our home. Being able to buy a home for the money that we could borrow at the time wasn't easy. So I think we could only borrow, about 500 odd thousand. So we would have had to have sold our house and then upgraded. But I kind of sneakily wanted to keep our PPI as an investment property. So we bought a block of land instead.
Yep.
With intentions to just wait a little bit and then build on it.
Yep.
So we bought that in 2021. So it was just in the cusp of COVID. So the timing was good. And in a year, it doubled in price. It doubled in value.
What'd you pay?
We paid $405.
Yep.
And that was in Berry. It's a 3,000 square meter block it's a sloping block.
Yep.
And so we started plans to build. So, but then we bought at a good time, but also with all the government stimulus that was going on for home builder, it just, can I say a typical government decision? Let's make a decision without finding out if there's actually supplies. And so, the price to build was just becoming astronomical, and we didn't want to have $2 million sunk into our PPI. We just didn't want to spend that kind of money.
Yep.
And so it was a couple of years of struggle to decide what we wanted to do there. We were going to build with a project home company, and they kind of underquoted us and screwed us. Am I allowed to say that?
Yep.
Yeah, really stuffed us up and rushed us through to sign contracts, and then we discovered a whole lot of errors in their contract, and we ended up getting out of that, but it cost us $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch!
So that was a big ouch. But I think if we'd proceeded, we would have sent us bankrupt.
Yeah, gotcha. Right.
So we just needed to take the pain, take the hurt. And even with all the education and all the things you think stuff still gets through to the keeper. And you try and tread humbly for that reason, because I don't know everything, and I obviously didn't know everything in this situation, and we got ourselves into something that we probably shouldn't have. And hindsight's wonderful, but we learnt some things through that too. So. And we got more education. So so in that, we decided we would buy a house and renovate. So so what we've done, we worked our heinies off for a good couple of years, and built ourselves up so that we could borrow $1 million. And that was really difficult. Like, the banks really tightened up, right? Everything got really, really hard, but $1 million doesn't buy you very much anymore. It not around here, not where we are. We are in coastal New South Wales.
Yeah.
And so we'd always dreamt of buying a house at Culburra. We'd always wanted to live at the beach. And we thought, oh, that's out of there. We can't do that anymore. We're not going to be able to do that. And so there was a little price correction that took place just after COVID, and with people not being able to borrow, was really hurting the property market out here particularly. And so with the price correction, we were able to buy a house 250 metres from the beach. We don't have beach views, but it's not far to get one. And at the moment, we have a tenant in it while we're making all of our renovation plans. And we've got the block on the market.
Oh.
So, but it's been,
that's going to help fund it. Yeah.
It's going to help fund it. Even if it doesn't help fund the reno, it might just knock off some of our mortgage at the end of that. So it's been on the market for a year though. So, well, it's not quite a year. It's about 10 months. So it is it's a hard market here, particularly for a block of land.
You just got to wait for interest rates to drop, and then that'll.
Yeah, I think that's what we're waiting for.
That'll change.
So yeah. So I'm hoping for your prediction there, Ben. February.
Well, it's a bit later now.
Yeah.
So Naomi, is that the pieces on the property ladder to date? Have we missed anything?
No, we did sell the Warragee house, which was the West Culburra, we like to call. We did sell that with intentions to build.
Gotcha.
So that's why we're living in our investment property at the moment, and grateful that we have it. Like, grateful that we've been able to reside here for a little bit.
So we've got the 4 properties.
3.
Currently?
Oh, we have 4 including the land. Yep.
Yeah, 4 including the land. Value on the Moorr platform I can see here is just a little over 3 million, which is 3.1 at around a 62% LVR. And to give some context in terms of household income between the two of you, because I think that helps those people who think, oh, they must have really good incomes or whatever. But it's regional nursing role and running a small business, a jewelry business. But we are talking around the sort of just a little bit higher than the 200,000, say 200 to 210,000 in terms of salaries and self-employed income. And then obviously the other income, which is around sort of about another $80,000 or so extra on that, is coming from the investment portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Well done. That's incredible. So Naomi, what's the North Star? What as we stand here now, what are you and your partner, you and your husband and the family, what's the end goal here? Are you looking to build, once you get into the house that you've done after the renovation, are you looking to add more properties to the portfolio? What do you ultimately want to be doing?
Well, we're hoping that the Culburra home will be our forever home. It's just a 3-bedroom, just a normal home.
Yeah.
And the lifestyle is what we enjoy. We love the beach, and we have 2 sons that are still living at home with us. Our 20-year-old said he's never leaving home till he's 40, now that we're going to live out at the beach. And I said, well, as long as you keep saving for your house deposit, that's fine with me.
Good.
So they're doing great. They're good kids. And so I guess really for us, we don't feel the need to add to our portfolio outside of that. Who knows what I'll feel like in 5 years. I've got to get myself through this reno first, and I'm own a building, so that's going to be interesting. So
Wow.
tick that one
Why
off
does that not
first.
surprise me about you, Naomi? Why am I not surprised you own a building?
Oh yeah, well that's what I do. I have a million plates up in the air for my work anyway, so I may as well do that too.
Yeah.
Uh, so so for us, I think we just really want to help our kids. We want to help them and help our family. Like it's been great being able to house my mother-in-law. She pays a little bit below market value, but we're okay with that because we want to help her. So
Yep.
she can
Good.
treat that home like it's hers until she's gone.
Yeah.
So really just being able to help family and live a really nice humble lifestyle. We just want to
Yeah, well,
enjoy the beach, take the dog for the walks, go camping in our 24-year-old caravan. We love it, and we our first overseas trip was this year. Well, my first overseas trip. I've never been overseas, and
where'd you go?
we went to Italy,
Oh,
Ooh,
and
wow. Good place to
um,
start.
yeah.
well, it was a bucket list thing for me. So I wanted to do this jewelry course
Yes.
in Florence, and it was a pretty big deal for me to tick that off. Amazing
Did you go to
experience.
Murano Island in Venice?
No, no,
Yeah, yeah,
I've never been a fan of the glass. So
yeah, yeah.
it's there was so I mean I'm a fan of all the art and everything else, but we did Tuscany and the Dolomites. The Dolomites are the most beautiful place on earth. It's like it's the Swiss Alps, but the other
Yeah,
side.
Switzerland
Yeah.
inspired. Yeah,
Just
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful. So that was really special, and so we want to do a little bit more of that. And have mini retirements. Ben and I have always said we probably will never give up work. We love what we do. So we'll probably keep working. Eventually, I'd like to just run little workshops in my backyard studio, and for all the people that come down the coast and teach them how to make jewelry and just help our kids.
yeah, well
And
done.
they're doing really well. I mean, they're all saving deposits
Yeah,
and doing brilliantly in life. Like they're good humans, and
well done.
I'm a
I
big
think they're
big
a.
part of. Sorry.
To your point, the fruit is known. The tree is known by its fruit, right? So I think the family stuff that you've spent a lot of time seeding into your family is bearing that fruit. So well done
I
to
hope
you.
so.
I love the term mini retirements. There you go.
Mm.
My final question for you today, Naomi, is you know, I put the call out to folks usually at the beginning of the year to start planning to come on the summer series. Now you've been really tenacious, so you've applied a couple of times. But
I have.
why did you respond? Why did you want to be brave and tell us your backstory and be open and transparent about your portfolio? What is it? What is it in your story? What message do you want to share the most?
Oh, I think it's just, it doesn't matter how you start, it's how you finish.
Huh.
So if anything in my story, and it's hard to not get emotional,
Yeah, go for it.
um,
You're incredible.
I think it's really hard to not get stuck in your head and in the narrative that sometimes the world or your upbringing or whatever has thrown at you. And I think you've got to push out of that in some way, shape, or form and get educated. Even if you're not, like, I am not formally educated in any way, shape, or form. I'm a self taught jeweler. So, like, it's just about having a go at something and don't be afraid to fail because if you don't fail, you don't know. You don't know what you could do. So, and I think it says a lot about uh, when you've been through hell, being able to just deny some comforts or whatever is not as hard. Then I think if you've lived a life of comfort, maybe it's a little harder to not have to, to go without or whatever. But I just wanted the little guy to feel like you can do it, and you can do it on not huge incomes. And I don't know. I don't know how to say it without crying. So
Well, you can cry all you like because you are incredible, but I love it. Doesn't matter where you start. it's where you finish. I mean,
Mm.
that is incredible. That's the message that you're sharing with our audience, but also that's what your kids will be picking up, right? And as
I hope
they
so.
watch this back with you, and
Mm.
they can get to be really really proud of you, because that message is powerful. Doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish, Ben.
Yeah, it does. And Naomi, can I just also add that we all, like plan to become what you plan to become, and we talk a lot about $2,000 a week, and that finish line, and sort of living, that passive income and living that life. A lot of the stuff we also want to talk about. And we talk about sort of smelling the roses along the way, but
Mm.
what you've also demonstrated is winning along the way, right? And so you talk about where you finish, but no, you've been a winner all this time. But
Mm.
winners don't win every set that they
No.
play in, right? Like they just don't. There's
Mm.
always going to be obstacles in the way in terms of what that story is. But
Mm.
the mindset of a winner is someone who is willing to give it a go. The mindset of a winner is someone who can get themselves into an uncomfortable position to eventually be comfortable in that position.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think
Mm.
from where I sit, this idea of aspiration is actually really powerful, and the idea of believing first that you are a winner, and taking that attitude, and then obviously the behaviours and actions that go with that. You can't just you know falsely convince yourself that you're that winner, but you can start on that journey to sort of say, I believe, I'm optimistic. I believe there's opportunity out there for me. Now, if you
Yeah.
can't get that early start, go and speak to someone professionally. Go and just tell them, explore why, what are those anchors that are holding you back. And if you can get through, and you can do that piece of work, some people need help to do that piece of work. But on the other side of that piece of work is a sense of freedom, a sense of optimism, a
Oh,
sense
yeah.
of winning, a sense
Mm.
of, a sense of understanding that this country is the best country in the world, a
Yeah.
sense that I can make my life, the one life that I have, the best experience, living
Mm.
at Lifestyle by Design. And you are an absolute credit to yourself and to your family, and obviously Ben, and also the other members of your family. You then, that then mushrooms into how you treat others, and then how they treat everyone else. And
Mm.
so ultimately, if we can have a society full of optimistic people who believe that they can actually make change, take actions, and all those type of things, that's the best message you can deliver to the community, Naomi. So even though we might have said no a couple of times before, that's on us now in terms of we are so happy that we've got you on, so
Oh,
you can
that's
share
all
that
right.
important message.
Oh, well,
It was
I'm just
incredible.
glad. Yeah. I hope it helps.
Yeah, well done, Naomi.
Absolutely, you would have
You said,
changed people's lives.
you said at the beginning that you want to suck the marrow out of life. I think you are
Mm.
definitely doing that, and you are setting an incredible pathway for your family too. So, Naomi,
Mm.
thank you.
That's nice.
Thank
That's
you
nice.
for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing it for our community, wherever they are this summer. They get to listen to your story. But on behalf of everyone here at Property Couch, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, guys. Really,
Thanks,
really
Naomi. Amazing.
blessing.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, Ben. Doesn't matter where you start; it's where you finish. That is an incredible way to start the summer series.
Oh, look, I've got so many great things for what, I'm debriefing on what Naomi's put in front of us. And it really is incredible. Don't be a victim, be a doer. Obviously, what we talked about earlier, she wanted more from the life that was on offer in front of her. And so she took advantage or made a decision. It was a conscious choice, right? It was, don't play the victim and just basically create the lifestyle that she wanted. She was all about providing for security and belonging for her family, something that she may have missed out on in her own upbringing. So there's just so much around that sort of mindset decision making that she was doing. Just a doer that's taking action. So I really loved Naomi's story. I really, from beyond a survivor to now thriving with a young family, 3 kids, life's pretty good, and it's been created that way by design in terms of the effort that she's put into it.
Yeah, turning apples into apple pie. But she made this comment that I really love. She wanted to suck the marrow out of life, and she certainly did. She's tenacious. She's learned sales. She's a doer. She's got a jewelry
Yeah.
business. There is just nothing that this incredible woman can't do. And I'm looking forward to staying connected with her, because I think her tenacity is something that we definitely admire around here, Ben. Her ability to take action is something that we definitely admire around here. So, Naomi, you're a credit to your family. And, humble beginnings too, right? So just shows what it takes that, to her point again, doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish. So, Naomi,
the fill one's tool bags, or fill our tool bags, is the word that she uses. And I think that's, Summer Series is really a time where we do talk about lifestyle by design and start to think about that. Now, we might all still be working, and our couple of weeks holidays coming a little bit later in summer into the Christmas New Year period, but it is a time about money, because there's lots of different things going around. There's temptations and expectations. And so really what I also like about what Naomi's sort of saying in terms of fill that tool bag is about understanding that story. And obviously, from what we've released recently with Money Smarts 2.0, we want to make sure that, from the point of view of the spending the money and how you're doing that, and thinking about that in a more meaningful way, sort of things that are sort of gimmicky or not necessarily going to add value to experiences. Have a second think about buying those types of things, that retail therapy. Have a second thought about that. But on the backside of that is obviously throughout the course of the summer series, it really is about organising your finances and setting yourself up for success. So Naomi's kicked us off brilliantly in terms of our first guest on summer series. So again, credit to you, Naomi. You do an amazing job for you and your family. You've really set the scene for what's going to be a great couple of episodes over the course of the coming months.
Well said, Ben. And Ben, we also want to put a little placeholder in folks' minds, because as you said, obviously a lot of people are still at work at this point in time, even though it's summer. But we are going to front foot what we see happen every single year, Ben. And so the back end of January, I want people to put a little mental placeholder that you and I are going to organise a webinar. We might have a very special guest who's going to co-present with you on that webinar, Ben. But it's about, at the end of January, when New Year's resolutions start to fade, we are going to we're going to prop up that energy around that time, and we're going to help folks make sure that they have 2025 kicking off in an incredible fashion. Make sure that we underpin every resolution that people make, but also, Ben, start to plant some seeds, because next year's summer series will start from people doing the work in January. So we actually want to be a part of that.
If you're interested in lifestyle by design, if you're interested in achieving financial peace, there's a process. There's plan to become what you plan to become. And that is an important part of that story. So yes, we're going to be doing a goal setting exercise. We're going to talk about behaviors that sometimes hold you back. But as part of that goal setting exercise, there will be money involved. So from that point of view, we've got to make sure that we set a 12-month surplus target to chase after whatever those financial and personal goals are. So it is going to be a show that is going to be, a webinar that's going to really help with basically, the basic tools that you need and the things you need to be thinking about. And of course, using the Moorr platform to help you get set up for success in 2025.
There you go, folks. Thanks again, Naomi. You have started our summer series with a bang, and next week's episode is a ripper, folks. I can promise you're going to be inspired by this young man who we get to talk to next week, Ben. But until next week,
knowledge is empowering, Bryce, but only if you act on it.
Heard it here first, folks. See you next week.